This is my new favorite thing to eat out of the house. The most delicious rice with kimchi and Korean barbecue and a crispy runny egg. It's Bibimbap, as prepared by Seoul Brothers, a food stall at Marble City Market in Knoxville, Tennessee. They do a fusion of Korean and southern U.S. food.
I kind of grew up in a biracial family in East Tennessee, and it was kind of interesting to see how all of our friends would have all of these different dishes that we would actually want to make at home, but we only had really Korean ingredients, so it was either Korean or Southern food with our father, so we kind of just meshed the two together as we grew up.
Chef Josh Coates is going to show us how he does the Bap Bowl at Seoul Brothers, and simultaneously I will show you a simplified version of the dish that I worked out at home. My simplified home version is what you'll find in the description.
So bap is actually rice. In Korean it translates to rice, and bibimbap translates to mix rice. The whole idea behind the entire dish is that you have all these different fresh ingredients that you just mix together.
First step, obviously, is to make rice. They use short grain rice, and they do it in a big professional rice cooker. How should I cook my rice at home, in a pot?
Like, I would say what the instructions say, because I'm not entirely sure. I've used one of these my whole life.
Fair enough. I've got half a cup, 100 grams of short grain rice per person, and I'm washing off the outer free starch coat. Swish and drain, swish and drain. And then I'll actually soak the rice in water for about a half hour. This is common for Korean-style plain rice. Drain again, and then put in the cooking water. 1-to-1 water to rice is what works for me with my short grain rice, but every rice is a little different. No salt, no nothing. Cover and bring to a boil, then reduce the heat until it's not boiling over anymore, and leave covered until everything is absorbed, maybe 20 minutes total. Turn the heat off, and then I like to let it rest for at least 10 minutes before fluffing. Resting gets you a product much closer to rice cooker rice. Now the real magic happens at Seoul Brothers.
So what we use here is a jalapeno cilantro lime dressing, just to kind of give it a little bit of a green, fresh, vibrant flavor, which is not traditional, but really just kind of adds a depth of flavor to the entire dish.
Yeah, to me, this dressing is the defining feature of their dish. Amazing. They start by removing the ribs and seeds from jalapeños, so that's what I'm doing. They do this in a food processor, but I'm going to just use a knife since I'm only making a little bit. I'll start by dicing the pepper finely, then I'll bring in a whole bunch of cilantro and start chopping all of that as fine as I can. Then I'll sprinkle over some coarse salt. This will help me grind this down into a paste with the side of my knife. Then just stir in enough fresh lime juice to get a thick, saucy texture. I used 3 limes for this much stuff. Stir like a spoonful or 2 of that per portion into the rice right before you eat. The green color will start to fade immediately on that hot rice. So what goes on the rice?
Here we have our marinated mushrooms. These are actually done in our barbecue sauce that we use for our beef.
They obviously make their own marinade, but for me, I'm gonna just buy a prepared Korean barbecue sauce / marinade. I'll chunk up some little brown mushrooms. They saute the mushrooms at Seoul Brothers, but I'm gonna just simmer them right in the sauce. Korean barbecue has a lot of sugar, so stir frequently or the sauce is gonna stick to the bottom and burn. When the mushrooms have shrunk in half, I'll pour them off. Those look a little too gooey for my taste, so I'll water down the sauce a bit, and done, on the rice. Man, I love barbecue flavors, and so does Brightland, the sponsor of this video. Let me thank them. Check out the summer barbecue capsule they sent me. Nice tongs. This box has everything you need to make all the marinades and the rubs that summer grilling season demands. Brightland is a very high quality olive oil out of California. This pressing is called Awake. It's super peppery and herbaceous, lots of antioxidants, great for grilling. The box comes with a great booklet of barbecue recipes by Chef Will Coleman. Also, this awesome rub called Terrain on the grill with these eggplant steaks. A lot of the olive oil at the store is old. It's going rancid. It's blended from Lord knows what sources. With Brightland, you're getting a super fresh U.S. grown product, and you know exactly where it came from. I'll top this with Rapture, their raw blackberry balsamic. I wouldn't hate getting this grilling box for Father's Day, just saying. Check out all of Brightland's stuff via my link in the description, and you'll save 10% on your order. Save 10% with my link in the description. Thank you, Brightland. Anyway, the Bap Bowl from Seoul Brothers. After the mushrooms, Chef Coates puts on the kimchi, which of course they ferment themselves at the restaurant.
You salt the cabbage, draw out the moisture, rinse all that salt off, and then add kind of a mixture of, and this is more of like each family has a different recipe for it, but ours is garlic, onion, and ginger mixed with soy and gochujang. and a slurry of rice flour, water, salt, and sugar, and then let it ferment for about 3 days.
Yeah, I'm gonna just buy some kimchi at the store. You can get it in mainstream US grocery stores these days, usually in the cold produce section. The real stuff has to be kept cold. On the rice it goes. Up next are the bean sprouts.
This is a variation of a Korean banchan called kungnamer. Mung bean sprouts that have been lightly blanched and then dressed with soy sauce, sesame oil, salt, pepper, and ginger, garlic, green onions.
Okay, so first thing I have to do is boil a bunch of mung bean sprouts. That's twice as much as I need, but if I cover it, everything above the water should steam. When people say blanch these, that generally means boil them for a few minutes, just until they start to visibly cook down a little. This softens them a bit and kills surface bacteria, which can be a problem with raw bean sprouts. Then you drain them and shock them with cold water to stop their cooking, keep them crisp. You can do that right in the pot, as long as you kind of overflow it with enough cool tap water to suck all the heat out. Squeeze the water out, and then, rather than make a fresh dressing like they do at Seoul Brothers, I'm gonna lean on my store-bought ingredients. I'll pour some of the excess juice off of my kimchi, get that in there, and then I'll dump in some more of my prepared barbecue sauce. Toss that around, and that's good enough for me, though I made way too many bean sprouts. On the rice with that. Next thing they put on at the restaurant are some Korean-style quick pickled cucumbers.
It's actually a Korean pickle and a Korean cucumber kimchi kind of combined into one, so it's going to have very bright, vibrant flavors of like rice wine vinegar, sugar, salt. There's a little bit of gochujang in there for just a touch of heat.
I will once again be simplifying things considerably. I'm just cutting some of the peel off of this cucumber, and then I'll cut these into semicircles. And again, I'll cheat by just pouring off some excess juice from my store-bought kimchi. Great stuff. Maybe I'll top this off with a little rice vinegar, and then I'll mix in a big pinch of sugar. The cucumbers at Seoul Brothers are sweet. I leave this in the fridge for a few hours or overnight, and the sugar will pull a ton of water out of the cucumbers. They will look and feel like pickles. They are pickles. Back at the restaurant, it's time to cook the bulgogi beef. You could obviously skip this and just make extra mushrooms. This is very thinly sliced beef marinated overnight in their house-made barbecue sauce, which is
soy, brown sugar, just like the same marinade with the mushrooms, with ginger, garlic, green onion, and Asian pear to kind of help tenderize it.
Asian pear contains enzymes that break down the meat a little bit.
We'll get a nice char on there. And generally, bulgogi in Korean translates to fire meat. It'd normally be done over an open flame, but even if not over an open flame, our parents cooked it in a skillet. So it just whatever works for you guys.
Okay, well, I was able to buy the same beef cut that Chef Coates uses, top round. I believe the Brits call it top side. Strong, beefy flavor. It's often sold thin sliced like this, great for stir fry, as long as you slice it very thinly against the grain of the meat. The grain is super obvious, so that's easy. Slice perpendicular to the grain, and you'll end up with very short meat fibers and therefore tender pieces. All kinds of thin sliced beef would be fine, and I have way more than I need here. You just need like a handful of this per person. Chef Coates kind of chops up the slices on his flat top grill as he's cooking them. I will not be able to do that in my pan, so I'm going to shorten these slices now just to make them easier to eat. And I will simply coat this in my store-bought bulgogi marinade, which has those same tenderizing enzymes in it. Marinade at least 2 hours, but I did overnight, into a very hot oiled pan. I wish I had blotted those dry a little, but whatever, I can evaporate the water, just don't burn the sugar in the marinade.
And we are also going to do a sunny side up egg with this. That just sits right up on top.
So he gets the egg going right after he gets the beef going, and he does it in some oil and pretty high heat. The white is really fluttering because he wants a crispy egg, brown and crispy on the bottom, but a runny yolk on top. I'm going to do this in a separate pan while I do my beef. Heat should be high enough that the white flutters on impact. If the pan's not hot enough, the yolk will be solid by the time the bottom is crispy. The beef is done at Seoul Brothers, gorgeous, on the rice it goes. The egg is done, and look how hard he has to scrape to get it off his grill. That's easy to do on a big flat top, much harder to do in a little pan, which is why I'm using a non-stick pan, no scraping. My beef is brown, so on it goes. With pieces this small, they're done on the inside when they're visibly brown on the outside. And there goes my egg on top. Now at the restaurant, they put on 2 sauces, the first being a kimchi aioli, or mayonnaise.
Koreans don't really use kimchi aioli, but we do. We'll use 3 raw eggs with like a cup of kimchi, and then we actually add gochujang in there, some gochujang, a little salt, pepper, lime juice to kind of give it that extra sour. and to help the emulsification process and mix in oil as it blends everything smooth. And then you get kimchi aioli. And then the last sauce that we're going to put over it is our bap sauce. So this one's actually a little bit different from normal bibimbap sauce. We actually use our pork marinade, which is going to be a mixture of sugar, rice wine vinegar, gochujang, Asian pears, garlic, green onion, and ginger. And then we actually add more gochujang to that with some sesame oil so that we can make this nice thicker sauce to kind of go over top of our bap bowl.
Absolutely beautiful, but as you can imagine, I'm not going to do all that work. I'm just going to grab some store-bought gochujang, which is Korean fermented chili paste. They have this in the Asian section at my normal grocery. You could just use that straight, but I'm going to mix it with some ketchup. At Seoul Brothers, they're mixing it with a bunch of sweet and sour ingredients. Well, guess what ketchup is? Ketchup is originally Asian. Some soy sauce in there, and I think that's a pretty darn good condiment. I'll drizzle that over my bowl, and I'm skipping the aioli entirely. Last thing at the restaurant is some shake-on seasonings.
2 parts to our furikake, which is literally just a rice seasoning. It's going to be salt, sugar, gochugaru, and sesame seeds, white and black, that we use for a rice seasoning.
So one shaker has the seeds, the other shaker has salt, sugar, and Korean chili powder, gochugaru. I'll just sprinkle on a pinch of salt, a pinch of sugar, a pinch of any chili powder, and then I do have a bottle of mixed black and white sesame seeds that I use for all kinds of things because they're pretty. And that's it. Boom. Then you just pop open the egg to form a little sauce, and you start mixing and matching ingredients with each bite. Heterogeneity. Is mine as good as the one from Seoul Brothers? Absolutely not. Mine is good, but theirs is transcendent, worth a special trip to Marble City Market in downtown Knoxville, Tennessee, where you will find Seoul Brothers and lots of other good places to eat. But hey, you make your bap bowl with anything you want, anything you've got. That's the traditional way.
It's kind of like the Korean version of like a kitchen sink dish. It's literally everything kind of goes inside of it. So even if you're at home and you don't have like access to some of these ingredients, you would literally just anything that you had. You could use cabbage, like fresh cabbage. Our parents put lettuce in there. You could use raw onions, even cilantro in some cases. And then if you had like tofu at home and you wanted to fry that off, you could use that as well. And it doesn't even have to have meat at all. You could actually just put the vegetables over top of it, throw an egg on it, and mix the whole thing together with the sauce that we're going to put over it.
Indeed, rice with stuff. That basic concept has fed half of humanity for thousands of years. You can only go so wrong with it.